Good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Leadership Conversations. I am your host, Colin McDermott. It's a privilege to join you this evening. Another Monday, another day of the start of another week. It's truly an honor to be online with you guys today. Thank you so much again for tuning in. It's been a great start of the week. Although the weather is starting to change, we're starting to see is that the summer is gone, but we got to roll with the punches, right? Um, today I'm excited to continue our conversation. Um, I think it's something that is important that we continue to talk as leaders about the various challenges. And as I always say before every program that I do, that the point of our conversation of me having these leadership conversations is ultimately for us to get a better understanding of how we can improve as leaders. I'm grown to get to a place where I'm no longer thinking in terms of right and wrong, but more so thinking in terms of how do I grow? How do I mature? How do I help others to grow and mature? And I think when you take that kind of mindset, it changes how you view life. It changes your perspective on how of your own leadership. And so we have to get past that place of right and wrong, because sometimes we think in those terms, and it's almost a black and white kind of belief system where you're wondering about what's right, what's wrong, rather than how can you help others to grow? How can I grow? How can I improve? How can I become a better leader? Because ultimately that's our job, is to grow as leaders, to grow as individuals, people with purpose, people with life. Every aspect of us should grow. And so the person I am today is different from who I was yesterday, and I'm going to be different tomorrow, because I'm always striving for growth and improvement. So I want us to continue our conversations stemming from what we discussed last week. For those of you that are online, feel free to share, like, subscribe, tag someone you know who should join this conversation. We're talking about pride. Pride is a disruptor. Pride is something that causes leaders to fall. It's a great derailer of leadership. And when you look and pay attention to these things, it helps you to kind of reshape your focus, as well as help you to dodge certain pitfalls, right? As leaders, we have to be careful of certain traps and of certain challenges that come along with leadership. And I'm a firm believer that when you shape expectation and when you develop an understanding that things are not going to be as easy as you think, that you're better prepared for the challenges that are ahead. And so last week we talked a little bit about pride, right? We talked about pride and how pride creates this self exaltation kind of mindset. It creates this arrogance. It creates this attitude of almost celebrity, right? Rather than an attitude of integrity, it creates an attitude of celebrity. I am great. I am this, I am that. It's all about me. I'm the focus. I'm the center of attention. I'm the center of attraction, right? This is something that tends to become a challenge for those that are in leadership. It becomes something that, if you're not focused, or if you're not paying attention to, it can steer you in the wrong direction, and you don't even realize that it's taking root in your life. And so we're talking about pride. Last week we talked about the difference between pride and confidence, right? It's possible to be confident without having pride, but it's not possible to have pride without confidence, right? Pride ultimately distorts confidence. It's a distorted view, an unrealistic view of yourself. And so your confidence push your confidence in the place of now being arrogant. And it's no longer focused on your ability or skill, but the focus is more so on you. right? It's not that I'm building a great vision, or I'm helping to empower others, but it's about me, how great I am. And so, as I said, we want to challenge and tackle this thing called pride, because it's something that has caused many great leaders to fall, if that makes sense, right? We always hear the quote that pride always comes before a fall, and a lot of people, they fall into that trap of pride, and it has been the cause of their downfall. So as we're talking about pride, one of the things that I wanted to discuss tonight and to challenge is this idea of entitlement. Because when you talk about pride, right, and this mindset of self-exaltation, and this focus on self and on who I am, this distorted reality, it creates a false sense of entitlement. And one thing that you never want to do as leader is to fall into that trap of pride and of having an entitled mindset, because entitlement makes you feel as if you deserve certain privileges. Things that should be viewed as a privilege. Let me say that things that should be viewed as a privilege gets taken as, or believed as, a right. It's my right to have these privileges. It's my right to do certain things. And that's a huge pitfall that you never want to fall into as a leader. See, when you talk about pride and you talk about entitlement, one thing that we have to recognize is that we see many individuals who have a wrong motive, right? Some individuals, they seek for power, they look for money, they're trying to get influence, all because they see the success of others, and they want that level of privilege, right? They want those perks that come with success, right? So a lot of people, they fall into the trap at the beginning where their motivation and their drive is to gain the perks of a position. Their focus is, I see how this person lives. They're wealthy, they're rich, they have a fancy car, they live in a fancy house, they hang with models, they hang out with other celebrities. That's what I want. And that becomes their motivation. That becomes their drive. They want to make a name for themselves. And because they see the success of others, it pushes them to want to have those privileges. Now, one of the things that makes that faulty is that when you already start off with a wrong motive, when your intention is focused on benefits rather than helping others, you put yourself in a position where you're never satisfied. See, an individual who has a motive and a drive for possessions, and a motivation and a drive for a position, or for a title, or for some kind of benefit, they're never satisfied. That's why they tell you that money can't buy happiness, right? Because usually individuals whose drive is to make money, once they make the money, they find that there's this yearning or this unsatisfaction in their life, because of the fact that they didn't fulfill their purpose. They more so filled their desire to have possessions, but they don't actually accomplish their purpose. And we, as human beings, as people that are born from God, from a creator, we are all born with a purpose. We're all born with there's a reason why we're here on this earth. And it's not to make money. It's not to live in a big house. It's not to drive a fancy car. It's not to be the most well-known individual on the earth. It's not any of those stuff. There's a purpose. There's a problem in the world that God created us to fulfill and to fix and to be the solution to. And so it's always important that as leaders, as individuals, as people of God, as human beings, right? All of those things. It's important that we strive to fulfill our purpose rather than to fulfill our desires for gain. And that's across the board, whether you're a Christian or not. It's something that everyone has to come to the understanding of, that you're created for a purpose, and it's not to make money. And you can make money and you can still be unfulfilled because you haven't accomplished what you were put on this earth to do. And so you have those individuals who their motivation and their drive is to make money. Their motivation and their drive is to get fame and to become celebrity. And the unfortunate thing about it is that those are the individuals who, as I said before, are never satisfied. And so they're not afraid to manipulate. They're not afraid to step on others. They're not afraid to take advantage of others and to use unethical strategies to get what they want or to get what they think they want, right? Those are the individuals that will do anything to make a dollar. They'll do anything. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal just to gain some kind of benefit. And again, because of the fact that they're never satisfied, it's a vicious cycle that continues, because when you step on people to get to another level, and then you got to step on more people to get to another level. And so you lie, and then you have to lie to cover up the previous lie, and you have to tell another lie to cover up that lie, and you got to keep, and then so you develop a cycle in a lifestyle where you're just taking advantage of people, you're alienating others, you're making others feel disgruntled around you, and then usually those people end up alone, right? Those are the ones who for the most part they're the most lonely individuals, because they've spent so much of their time taking advantage of others that no one wants to be around them. You see those celebrities who ultimately end up alone because even though they have the money, even though they have the success, even though they have the fame, because of their behavior, they're disliked amongst others. I've read numerous stories of certain celebrities that people are complain about or say are nasty when you meet them in real life. Why? Because of the fact that they've allowed pride and this mindset of entitlement. Let's bring it to something that we know, ministry, right? There are a lot of big name ministers that when you meet them in person, you get turned off by them. Why? Because of the fact that they have this mindset of pride and entitlement. So across any industry, wherever you go, there you find those individuals who fall into that trap. Why? Because a lot of times their motivation starts with wanting perks and privileges. Now, on the other hand, there are some leaders who genuinely start off with a desire to help others, genuinely have a passion to serve. They genuinely have the right motives. They desire to really make a change in the world. But somewhere along the line, they ultimately get connected to the wrong circle or the wrong influencer. So they ultimately get connected to the wrong people. And in that connection, it creates an opening for pride. See, not everyone who's prideful started off prideful. Not everyone who has this idea of entitlement started off with this mindset of entitlement. A lot of times it's because they got connected to the wrong individual. They got connected to the wrong people, the wrong person who became an influencer to them and showed them a different way that caused them to now open themselves up to certain things. And so a big thing is that as leaders, we have to always be mindful of who we get connected to. See, who you get connected to and who you allow to influence you, well, those individuals can either push you up or they can weigh you down. So we always have to be careful of who we get connected to. You can get connected to the right person, and they'll be the person that'll help elevate you and help catapult you to where you're trying to go. They'll help to empower you and help you to accomplish your dream and your goal. And there are certain individuals that if you get connected to, they will just weigh you down and bring you to, they'll bring you low. And we've all seen we've all had those people in our lives that every time we get around them, it's just a headache. Every time we talk to them, there's one problem or another. And I watched Steve Harvey do a presentation about leadership, and he said something that was so powerful to me. He said every 6 months he does a check on his phone. He does a check. He says he goes through every single name in his phone book, and he either puts a green check or a black dot or an X, a red X next to their names. The individuals who have a positive influence on his life, he keeps a green check next to their name. The individuals who every time he talks to them, they want something or they're complaining about something, he puts a red X next to. And then the individuals who are neither a positive influence or a negative influence, he puts a black dot next to. And then after he goes through all of those numbers in his phone, after he goes through every single one, he deletes all of the black dots and he deletes all of the red X's. And he only keeps those individuals that are a positive influence in his life. Only those who are encouraging, only those who are empowering, only those who are willing to help. Because the people that you get connected to have an influence on your life, and they can bring you down or they can help push you up. And so we got to be careful and mindful of who we get connected to. And so who you get connected to can sometimes open up the wrong doors in our lives. Who we connect to can sometimes open up the wrong doors in our lives, right? Last week I talked about the transfer of spirits, right? Transfer is something that takes place on the most casual of moments. It doesn't necessarily require laying on of hands. It doesn't require some of these things that we think it requires. Sometimes it just requires you, for the most part, it requires you to just open up yourself to a relationship with them. And you start to observe their behaviors. You start to listen to their thought processes. You start to see how they interact with others, and it can influence you. And so we have to always be watchful. So that's a little nugget I just wanted to throw out there, because it's so important that we keep that at the forefront of our minds, because the wrong influences, right? They can be friends, they can be family, they can seem like the most sincere of people, but if they're the wrong influence, they can create openings in your beliefs. They can create openings in how you behave. And so a lot of times people start off with the right motives and the right intentions, and somewhere along the line starts to lose their way, because now they're opened up to this mindset of entitlement and they allow pride to creep in. So I want us to think about that. As leaders, we have to always be mindful. Now, it's dangerous as a leader to have an entitled mindset, because as I said, when someone has this entitled mindset, they interact and they treat people differently. An entitled mentality, by definition, is a state of mind in which an individual comes to believe that privileges are rights, and that they are to be expected. See, certain privileges, certain things, some perks, certain circles and certain doors that open up for them, they have this mindset that it should be expected, right? If I do good, I should. I should be treated treated better because I'm on a certain level. I should be treated as others on that level. If I am a CEO, if I am a senior leader, if I have a certain amount of money in my bank account, right? If I make a certain amount of money, then the things that you used to work for, right? The relationships that you used to work for, the opportunities that you used to work for, you start to believe that it is your right to have them. Right? When people praise you or people give you compliments, right? You start to feel as if it is deserved, right? I should be complimented. I should be praised for how good I am. And it puts you in a bad position. When we talk about entitled mentality, you start to shift in how you move and operate. You start to shift in how you move and operate. You no longer have that heart of servanthood. You no longer have that desire to help others. You're now in a position where you expect others to serve you. You no longer want to serve others, but you have this expectation that you should be served. You have this expectation that people should honor you. You have this expectation that people should treat you a certain way. That people should almost treat you as royalty because of who you are, right? And because of what you have accomplished, or because of how much money you have in your account. And a true leader doesn't fall into that trap. A true leader is always thinking about, how can I serve others? How can I be a person that is going to empower others? You hear me say that all the time. That a leader is someone who is empowering, who will empower others to be great. They're not looking for attention. They're not looking for praise. They're not looking for anything else but to serve and to help others become better tomorrow than they are today. So when you have a leader who has an entitled mindset, right, they're more likely to abuse their power and damage those who they're leading. They have this, they abuse their power, right? Because they're always thinking about them. How do I get recognized? How do I step in? How do I get praised? How do I get the perks and the privileges of being a leader? And so they start to abuse their power. They start to take advantage of others. Right? Because in their mind, right? And this is how an entitled person, an entitled leader thinks, right? They have this mindset that I worked hard to get where I am. And so the higher I get, the less work I have to do. Right? They start to think, okay, I worked hard to get to this level. And so if I want to get higher, or if I want to get better, I need to do less, and instead I need to use others to get me to where I want to go. Right? You work hard to get to into this sphere of influence, and you think that now that you have quote unquote arrived at that place, now you don't want to put as much work in to maintain your influence or increase your influence, and instead you try to find ways to manipulate and use others, right? And we've seen those kind of leaders that they get to a certain point and now they stop growing. Now they stop improving. Now they stop working as hard as they used to, right? They used to be the first ones in church. They used to be the first ones in the building. They used to be the first ones that made themselves available, right? They were the ones who volunteered to serve. They were the ones who came up with with great ideas on how we can make things better for the people that they're leading. And then ultimately they get to a certain place and they get to a certain position and they start to hang out with a certain crowd. And so now they no longer there first. Right? They show up when they show up because they're expecting everybody else to wait for them. Right? Those are the leaders who walk into service whenever they feel like it, because they don't expect that service is going to be able to move forward without them. They don't expect business to move forward without them. And so they have this mindset that you are going to wait on me until I'm ready. And ultimately they take advantage and they abuse their power, and those that they're leading are the ones who get damaged. Because now instead of working together, they're giving orders and giving demands, and they're demanding to be treated a certain way, and they call you out when you don't treat them at the title or the position that they're in. You never want to be a person or a leader who damages those who you're leading, because ultimately you create an atmosphere, you create an environment where morale is low, people are frustrated, people are disgruntled, and then you create an atmosphere of competition, right? Because you carry this haughty, greater than everyone else kind of character, you ultimately influence those that you're leading. And so now those that are under you, that are under your leadership, they start to take on that character. They start to take on that mindset. And so instead of focusing on helping to accomplish the overall vision or focusing on accomplishing the overall goal, everyone on your team, everyone under that leadership becomes focused on self, right? It's about, how do I improve? How do I get elevated? How do I get into a higher position? Right. And when people get into that place of competitiveness and become focused more on self, right, they'll do some cutthroat things to get ahead. They will throw others under the bus. They will lie. They'll manipulate. They'll take advantage. Anything that they can do to get ahead. And that's what happens when a leader creates that environment. When a leader has that entitled mindset, has that haughty, prideful belief system, now everyone else falls under that influence. And then now you start to see people, rather than working together, they're working against each other. That's why so many leaders, they fail to get past a certain level, right? That's why certain ministers will fail to take their ministry to another level, because they're so focused on trying to build them. Right? Have you ever seen those ministries where the pastor is, or the leader is here and the people are way down here? There's no empowerment. There's no elevation. There's no sense of helping others to grow. It's just, I am here and other people are there. Right? It's usually because this separation of power. And a lot of leaders, they abuse their power, and they keep a gap between them and those that they are leading. That's what happens when you allow pride. That's what happens when you allow entitlement to infiltrate your sphere. You allow it to infiltrate your leadership. And now you create a system and you create an environment where no one is able to move forward. You as the leader are not able to move past where you are because you're not empowering others to build the vision. And so now you're stuck and the people that you're leading is stuck. But yet you want people to to treat you a certain way, to treat you as royalty. These are some of the challenges and some of the issues that come with an entitled mindset. Now, what are some things that you recognize when you see when you're around someone who has this false entitlement? Right? One of the first things you recognize is that they start to think that they're better than you. Right? They think that they're better than everyone that they're leading. They think that they're better than everyone in their sphere. They think that they're just better overall. You can't do what I do. And I don't want to share that power. I don't want to share that spotlight, because if I share that spotlight, if I empower you, if I help you to be better, then I won't get the royal treatment that I have an expectation for. I won't have that royal treatment that I expect to have, because now you're a competitor, right? So they have this mindset that they're better than everyone else, and then they also have double standards, right? They don't play by the same rules as everybody else. They expect everyone else around them to follow what I say, not what I do. Right? I because of the place that I'm in, because of the level that I'm at, those rules don't apply to me. So I can tell you to be a person of integrity, and I can tell you to be a person of character, and I can tell you to be someone who is compassionate and caring, but I don't have to follow those same rules because of the level that I'm at, because of where I am. You see how it begins to unfold, right? You don't play by the same rules because we're on different levels. And those individuals who have that entitled mindset, they will let you know you are not on my level, or they'll make you feel as if you're not on their level. They'll make you feel as if you're not on their level, and they'll find ways to put you down. They'll find ways to criticize. They'll find ways to critique you. They'll find ways to hold you accountable of the things that they won't hold themselves accountable for. So because they play by a different set of rules, right? They don't implement fairness. They're not fair, because when you talk about fairness, then that means that there has to be equality. I have to treat you as I want to be treated. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be, this is where I belong. This is what I deserve. I worked hard to get here. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I had to do to get to this place. These are the things that you hear. And so you want to be careful as a leader not to develop that kind of mindset. I've seen so many people fall into that trap where they try to exaggerate their experiences. They try to overplay their struggles or what they had to overcome. Right? They'll make it seem as if they had the hardest life. They struggled the most to get to where they are. And it creates this atmosphere or this mindset that I belong here. This is what I'm entitled to do. You always see that those who have this entitled mindset, they'll start to give you examples or give you reasons as to why they deserve their level of influence or their power. Anyone who's always constantly talking about what they had to go through, how hard their day was, how hard their week was, those are the ones who oftentimes fall into that trap or that mindset of entitlement. And ultimately, that entitlement, as I said before, is rooted in pride. It stems from having that pride. It stems from having that belief, that focus on self. Because pride is all about self. Me, me, myself, and I. That's who I am. That's what's more important. So everything I have, I deserve it. It's mine. I deserve it. I worked hard for it. And now I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel as if you shouldn't feel as if your hard work and your labor is not valuable, right? I want to make that very clear. Everything that you've experienced, everything that you had to endure, everything that you worked hard to build deserves recognition. It is valuable, right? Every experience that you've had to go through in life, there's value in it. But when you get to that place where you want people to treat you as a celebrity, you want people to treat you with you have this air of not respect, but you demand honor. See, there's a difference between wanting respect and wanting honor. Every person deserves respect, but honor is something that you can't demand. You cannot demand people to honor you. If people honor you, well, you accept it with grace. See, a lot of leaders, they don't know how to accept honor with grace because of that, again, that entitled mindset. That entitled mindset that says, well, yeah, I deserve this honor because I worked hard to get here. A true humble leader, when they're honored, they take it with grace. They recognize that it's not of their own strength. They recognize that they didn't get to that place alone. They recognize that although they've been through what they've been through, it doesn't mean that I'm better than you. And so I'll receive the honor with grace, but I'm not looking for it. Whether you want to honor me or not, it's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do. It's not going to stop me from being who God has called me to be. See, a lot of people will shut down, and again, falls back into that entitled mindset that they'll shut down because you don't honor them. Now, I'm treading into dangerous territory, so I'll tread lightly. Right? You'll see some people, they'll quote unquote shut down the gift. And I'll leave it at that because they feel as if people are not honoring them at the level that they expect. They'll shut it down because they expect a certain level of honor and a certain level of appreciation. And so they'll stop doing what they should be doing because of the fact that they have this entitled mindset. All of these things are dangerous. They're dangerous, and it's something that's very easy to fall into because, again, everybody wants to receive respect. Everyone wants to be treated with a certain level of treated as someone who is valued, right? Everybody wants to be valued. We all want to be valued. We all want to be recognized. We all want to be appreciated for who we are. But a true leader is not looking for that. A true leader doesn't get fulfillment from those things. It's nice and it's good, and usually they'll get it from the individuals that are closest to them. But that's not their motivation. And that's what makes the difference between demanding honor and demanding respect. What is your motivation? Are you motivated by the praises of others, or are you motivated by accomplishing your purpose? See, an entitled person, they're motivated by the recognition. They're motivated by the appreciation. They're motivated by the royal treatment and the perks and the privileges that come along with their title. But a true leader is focused on seeing others empowered. They're focused on they're motivated by seeing other people be great. Right? Their level of leadership is more so about, did I do what I came here to do? Did I accomplish my purpose? Did I fulfill what I was supposed to do? And are others blessed by it? Are others empowered by it? Are those who are under my influence better today, tomorrow than they were yesterday? Right? That's what a true leader's focus is on. The appreciation and the recognition, it's great, but it's not. It doesn't drive them. And another thing about an entitled individual or an entitled leader is that they will offend others. Right? They'll offend others. They'll make others upset. They'll do what they need to do to make people feel low, to make people feel as though they're beneath them. They'll push you down to get to the top, right? Those are the people that have that mindset that it's lonely at the top. Any leader that you hear say that it's lonely at the top, you got to watch out for them. Because an individual who is who has this mindset that is lonely at the top is not a leader that's trying to empower others. Right? Is those individuals that talk about have that crab in the barrel mindset, right? It's that crab in the barrel mindset where they'll pull you down to get to the top. But when you really think about it, crabs were not created to be in a barrel. But the entitled leaders, they will pull you down. They'll make you feel low. They'll make you feel less than, just to make themselves feel better and to make themselves look more powerful. Right? You ever see someone who does something and they do a great job, and then that leader comes on and tries to outshine them? I've seen that so many times. I call them the shine blockers. They just won't let others be great. They have to find a reason to steal somebody else's shine. Don't let somebody else be recognized for what they've done or their accomplishments. They're gonna jump in and try to make themselves look better. Right? I've seen that so many times, especially in church, where a person will minister and they'll do a great job, and the crowd, the congregation, will be blessed by that individual, by how God uses that individual, and then the entitled leader will jump on after and try to outpreach and outshine the person that God used, and they'll cause a whole disturbance because of the fact that they want others to see them as higher than everyone else. All of these things are rooted in pride, as I said before, because pride, again, creates this distorted reality where you believe that you're the focus. It's all about me, me, me. And I can't allow anybody else to shine, because then it takes the attention off of me. So we never want to develop that entitled mindset. What I love about certain individuals is that they have this mindset that I'm going to work hard to get where I need to go, and I'm going to work even harder to get where I need to be. Right? I worked hard to get where I am, but I'm going to work harder to get where I want to go. They're always thinking of ways to pull others up with them. Right? What I loved about Jesus' ministry is that Jesus took the time to teach, and he took time to demonstrate, and he healed, and he laid hands on, and all of these things. But there was a time where he said, now, all right, you guys go out, because I've given you power to tread upon snakes and scorpions. He gave them power and said, go out and let them go and perform miracles. All the miracles, the same miracles that he was doing, he allowed them to perform. They went out, they performed the same miracles, they cast out spirits, all of these things. And they came back rejoicing, telling him about all that they were able to do. He didn't just he didn't try to steal their shine. He didn't try to outperform miracles than they did. He didn't try any of those things. He just brought them right back to earth and said, let them know. All right, just don't rejoice because you've done these things, but rejoice because your name is written. See, Jesus brought them back to the focus, which is the purpose, the vision. And individuals who carry pride are never focused on the vision. They're always focused on self. And so when you are in the position of leadership, your mindset should always be, how do I empower others? How do I make things easier? How do I serve? How do I serve others? Not how should I be served? That's when you walk in that place of integrity, and you walk in that place where you're not trying to do things all by yourself. How do I delegate responsibilities that's going to magnify and build on the strengths of others? And how do I take on more of a burden to help make things easier? Because ultimately, people will follow you when you have that mind, that servant leadership mindset and that servant leader approach. Nobody wants to follow a leader who believes that they're entitled, right? People will turn their backs on. They'll turn away. They'll run away from the individual who walks in the building with their head high, nose feeling as if you can't breathe the same air as them. I've never seen anybody loyal to those kind of people, right? Usually the people that are around them are those who are trying to figure out, how can I get what I need from them, and then disappear. So it's always a danger to have an entitled mindset, because people that are around them are always thinking about themselves. Just as you're thinking about yourself, people that are around you are always thinking about yourself. And how can they ride the coattail? How can they benefit from you? And when they get what they want, they're gone. What I find interesting is when you have leaders who have this entitled mindset, and then they wonder why they go through cycles where people are constantly betraying them or constantly turning their backs on them. It's because you created that kind of atmosphere. You created that sphere of influence. Because every leader has a sphere of influence, and those that they are leading receive something from them. And so if you have this arrogant air about you, then guess what? People are not going to be loyal to you. They're going to come to you, get what they want. They'll put on the face and have the facade that they want to serve. And then when they get what they want, they're gone. It's usually because you created that atmosphere, because you expected them to see you as you expected them to see you as royalty and to treat you as royalty, and they're able to withstand the abuse. Let me say that those individuals are willing to deal with the abuse for a certain amount of time until they get what they want or until they're fed up. There are so many leaders who take advantage and abuse their power and manipulate others to get what they want. And then they create that atmosphere where people turn around and do the same thing to them. And so as leaders, you don't want to fall into that trap of pride. You don't want to fall into that trap of feeling entitled. You don't want to fall into that space where you're looking for ways to be served rather than to serve. So I want us to think about that. How, as leaders, can we empower others? How can we serve others? How can we take the focus off of ourselves and focus on serving others and put the focus on helping others? Because really and truly, the things that, as a leader, we should understand that leading is a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege and not a right. It's a privilege to serve others. It's a privilege to be in a position of influence. It's a privilege to be able to cast vision and have other people that are willing to make themselves available to help build that vision. People don't have to give their time. People don't have to give their energy. People don't have to give their ideas. They don't have to do any of that stuff to help. So when you're in a position of influence and you're in a position where people want to help you build a vision, it's a privilege, and it should be recognized as a privilege and treated as a privilege. And so you can't take advantage of it. You can't allow the power to get to your head. You can't allow the influence to get to your head. You can't allow the recognition to get to your head, because ultimately, when you develop this entitled, prideful mindset, it's only going to lead to your downfall. So I wanna leave that with you. As I shared last week, I do want to have a segment where you can ask questions. And so, what are your thoughts? What are some questions that you have? What are some things that you've observed working with leaders who have an entitled mindset, who have that, who carry that air of pride? Let's talk about it. What are some questions that you have? Some things that you recognize? Feel free to put it in the chat. Let's talk about it, because this is something that I want us to understand, that as leaders, we have to be able to identify these things and avoid those traps, avoid those pitfalls. Because like I said, pride is something that creeps in. Let me not say no one, but most people don't have an intention of pride, of being prideful. Most leaders, they start off with the mentality that they want to serve. They have all of the right motives. But somewhere along the line, there's an influence that causes them to now change their trajectory and change their direction, right? We always talk about Adam and Eve, right? Eve didn't have any intention but to live the life that God called her to. But somewhere along the line, the serpent came and she allowed him to influence her. And that influence started to open her up to think that she could be on the same level with God. And so, because of the fact that she opened herself to that influence, it put her now in a position where she fell. She fell to pride, and she fell into sin, and ultimately the world is the way it is because of that. And so most leaders don't have an intention or a desire to be prideful, but we have to constantly check ourselves. We have to constantly check ourselves and make sure that everything that we're doing, that our heart is in the right place, that we maintain a level of integrity, that we maintain the character of Christ, right? We maintain that compassionate character, that character of love, that character of care, that character of empowerment. How do we empower others, and how do we serve? And when you constantly do self-checks and self-evaluations, you're less likely to fall into those traps. So with that being said, I don't see any questions. Excuse me. I don't see any questions, and so if there are none, I'm going to leave that with you. I want us to really think about these things, because this is an element of pride that we see, but we don't usually address, because it's something that I'm treading on I'm treading on dangerous ground again, but there are a lot of people in positions of power and positions of influence in ministry that still carry that entitled mindset. That because of the title that I carry, because of the anointing that I carry, because of the access or because of the level of influence that I have, both naturally and spiritually, they still carry that air about them of of entitlement and arrogance. And we're in a time where it's a changing of the guards. It's a changing of the guards, and we're coming into a time where it's back to real ministry, back to true leadership according to how God desires it. And so there are individuals who truly have a heart to serve, and we're getting back to that place of, or God is putting people in that place of serving again. And so we have to always be careful not to allow those things, the entitlement and that pride to infiltrate us and put us in that position where it sets us up for a downfall. So I'm going to leave that with you tonight. I hope that it was helpful. Like I said, this is something that we have to be sober minded about. Oh, we have a question. Pastor Troy, thanks for tuning in. His question is pride rooted in rejection? To that question, I don't know if necessarily it's rooted in rejection. Rejection definitely is a part of it, because a lot of people, because they've been rejected at a certain point in their lives, sometimes they do get to that place where when they reach a certain level of influence, that rejection opens up the door to pride. Let's say that. Because you've been rejected by at a young age, or by certain people that you were looking to for a relationship. Some people, when they get to a certain place of influence, now they have this entitled mindset that I worked through all the rejection to get here, and so I must be treated as a certain way. They get to that place where they're fueled by their rejection, and so they kind of use pride. Yes, they kind of use pride as a way to protect themselves. They want to protect themselves, so it becomes a defense mechanism to them that they don't want to be rejected ever again. And so if I carry this arrogant, haughty kind of personality or character or behavior, then it'll protect me from being rejected again. So it is partly rooted in rejection, but rejection definitely opens the door to it. Pastor Lambert, she says, at what point does pride and entitlement sneak into the mind of a leader? It's so difficult to identify. I believe, and I said it, I had mentioned this earlier, a lot of times it creeps in when you get connected to the wrong circle. See, the thing is that as you grow in your influence, you have access to other influencers, and you have access to certain individuals. And sometimes what happens is, because you get connected to the wrong circle, and that's why you got to be careful of who you get connected to. Some people, they'll get connected to the wrong influencers in the wrong circle, and that circle of influence will open up that door for pride and entitlement to creep in. Many leaders, they build and they they get around certain individuals, or it doesn't even have to be a circle of individuals. Sometimes it could just be one individual that helps you, that gets around you, and they kind of transfer that spirit of pride and entitlement to you, right? Think about some of these celebrity people, or even some of these preachers or ministers or high level senior leaders, right? When they get to a certain point, a lot of times they get around individuals that introduce this entitlement to them, right? So they'll get someone who joins their team, who serves them, and they'll be in their ear, right? And say things like, well, why are you letting them treat you like that? Or why are you letting them talk to you like that? Or don't you think that they should be doing this for you instead of that, right? Bringing back to the idea of preachers, right? They'll have certain individuals that are around them that'll make them feel as if they should be treated better than, they should receive more honor. They're the ones that point out that an individual didn't call you by your title, right? Somewhere along the line, you get connected to some kind of influence that opens up the door to pride and entitlement. It's because of the influence of the serpent that ultimately opened Eve up to even see or start to think about things through the perspective of entitlement and pride. Right? Because to have this mindset that if I eat a fruit, that it makes me equal with God, right? To have this mindset, it comes from, it introduces this idea of entitlement. I gotta be like God, right? I gotta be like God. And so it's that one influence that shifted her whole trajectory and opened up her eyes to something that she shouldn't have been exposed to. And when you get higher, you constantly have to protect yourself from those individuals that will open and expose you to the wrong things. Because there are people out there who want to see your downfall, right? And so they'll expose you to something, because something that you shouldn't be exposed to, so that you can fall. And then you have some people that because of their where they're at and where you're at, they want you to develop develop their similar character as them. And so long story short, it usually comes from being exposed to the wrong influence. That's why you have to be careful of who is around you and who you allow in your circle, who you allow in your ear, because they can either push you up to where you need to be, or they'll weigh you down. And so I hope that answered your question, Pastor Lambert. Thank you so much for those questions. This thing that we talk about when it comes to pride, it's something that really has derailed and destroyed a lot of leaders. And so it's important that as leaders, we do what we need to do. We remain humble. We constantly maintain that character of integrity. We don't compromise who we are. We don't compromise our values. We don't compromise what we want to do, right? You don't want to take shortcuts, and you don't want to take advantage of others to get ahead. Because ultimately, these are the things that will put you in the wrong circles, and put you in a position where now you're fighting against this thing that's trying to pull you down. So I hope that I was able to help you with concerning that. I hope you were able to get something from it. I believe that as leaders, we have to maintain that true leadership mindset and be able to take our focus off of ourselves and focus on building the visions that God has given us. We got to focus on on accomplishing our purpose. Because as I said before, our purpose is not to make lots of money and to be successful. Those are all byproducts of following after your purpose. If that becomes your motivation, if money becomes your motivation, if influence and power becomes your motivation, when you obtain those things, you will still feel unfulfilled. You will still feel unsatisfied. But when you find ways to fulfill your purpose, that brings the ultimate satisfaction. Where regardless of where you are financially, regardless of of what circles that you of influence, what sphere of influence you have, as long as you accomplish your purpose, it creates the greatest form of satisfaction. And so I want us to, as leaders, to get to that point where we're focused on our purpose and not on ourselves. As you work to build the vision that God has given you, as you work towards accomplishing your purpose, God will take care of the rest. So with that being said, I thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your comments and your feedback. I hope that this week will be a week where you feel empowered, where you start to take advantage of well, not take advantage, but you start to see more opportunities and more doors open. And I hope that you all have a blessed week. I appreciate you all. Hopefully, God willing, we will continue our conversation next week. God bless you all. Have a great night.